Good afternoon, everyone. Just allowing a few seconds for everyone to dial in. And we'll be starting very shortly. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our first e-seminar for autumn 2021. I trust that you've all had a great summer and that you're looking forward to what we hope will be a busy and profitable year ahead. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Karina Vaughan, and Catalina Consulting is my company. We work predominantly in the financial and sustainability sectors, supporting entrepreneurs and economic development leaders with strategic business growth. And I'm delighted to deliver today's session in partnership with the Swiss Canton of Neuchâtel. It's an innovative high-tech canton whose expertise in microtechnologies is recognized worldwide. And with that has come a focus on energy efficiency, sustainability, and a commitment to ESG. And as more of us focus on net zero and embed ESG strategies into our business models, we are increasingly finding radical innovation and the development of disruptive technologies to be at the forefront of sustainable value creation for our shareholders, investors, consumers, and of course, the planet. And so with the support of an expert panel of innovators, today's session on leveraging disruptive technologies to solve ESG problems will consider the importance of capital allocation to green assets, the growing danger of surveillance capitalism, and revolutionary approaches to new product development. So thank you to everyone who has already emailed in some questions for the panel. Please do continue to send those questions in the course of the discussion, and we'll have time for final Q&A at around 10 to 3, rounding up at 3 o'clock London time. We also plan to run 2 polls today, the output of which will be shared in a short post-seminar article. So please look out for that on LinkedIn in the next couple of weeks. So let me now present our panel and say that we are looking forward to hearing from all of you. And thank you, panelists, for being part of today's seminar. So I'm now going to ask each of the panel to introduce themselves and to make their short opening statement. So I'm going to go first to Mickael Gonçalves from Banque Bonhôte AC. So Mickael is having some video problems this afternoon, but we can certainly hear him very clearly. So Mickael, can you make your opening statement, please?
Yes, hello to everybody. If you want my face, you can have it on the site of the Banque Bonhôte or on LinkedIn. I'm sorry, I cannot use my video and audio both at the same time today. So I'm a portfolio manager at Banque Bonhôte in Neuchâtel. I am mainly responsible for the investment part regarding ESG and impact investments. Here at Bonhôte, we want to make really a difference on the planet and improve our mother nature. We try to efficiently allocate financial resources that the clients gave us in the best way to make an impact and be sustainable. For example, we participate in corporate certifications, are the sponsor of local hubs and associations. We organize and create events for ESG and sustainable awareness. One of our main guidelines are the SDGs from the United Nations. So you have 17 goals, and we try to allocate capital respecting as much as possible the 70 goals.
Okay, thank you, Mickael. I'm now going to go to Giuseppe Pezzini from Pielleswiss. Giuseppe, can I invite you to make your opening comments?
Of course. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm the CEO of Pielleswiss. Pielleswiss is a new co that we created in Switzerland a couple of months ago with a very important mission to manage the transition from a traditional textile business to an innovative business of our group. Our company, the mother company, exists for 40 years, and we are a sustainable entrepreneur and in innovative textile solutions. We produce and manufacture all over the world uniforms and merchandising for big multinational companies, sport federations, important events. And we realize that textile is, of course, is a traditional sector, but being that textile is polluting a lot the planet, and we can discuss about that during the panel, it can be leveraged by us. Our know-how and expertise can be leveraged to use the textile, traditional textile, as a secondary raw material, and which allow us to enter in a new sector, new segment of the garment, putting together a sustainable approach with a vision of the future. This is the mission of Pielleswiss.
Thank you, Giuseppe.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Alexi Russell from Neem Technologies. Alexi, can I come to you now?
Yes, hello. Thank you very much for inviting me here and having me present also and talk about these questions. So I'm Alexi Russell. I'm the COO of Neem Technology SA. We're a startup that is building a mixnet, which is a very specific technology to anonymize internet traffic. And it's an old technology from it's already 30 years ago, and but it was only now it has been implemented thanks to a mixture of events. One is that privacy is becoming a real focus now, more and more, looking at the changes in the society. But at the same time, we have new business model, which are appearing and allows us to run types of network which were not sustainable in an economical sense before. So yeah, happy to talk about this.
Lovely, thank you, Alexi. And Anna, so Anna Pinto from the Service of the Economy at the Canton of Neuchâtel. Anna, can you make your opening comments, please?
Yes, sure. So good afternoon to you all. My name is Anna Pinto, and I'm a business partner at the Service of the Economy of the Canton of Neuchâtel in Switzerland. So the Service of Economy is a public service which mission is to attract FDIs and help local economy in its development. So along with another colleague, we are in charge of the UK market. So there is a willingness of Switzerland to be internationally recognized in the future as the go-to destination for sustainable finance, for example, and it becomes increasingly attractive to multinationals. But here in the canton, we also have our own ESG agenda that is constantly reviewed, and it would be nice to chat later about that.
Excellent, thank you, Anna. And last but by no means least, Max Monti from the University of Applied Sciences. Max, can I ask you to make your opening statement?
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Karina. So I'm very happy to be here to present what we set up with our engineering school in those 2 last years. So it's a sort of sandbox gathering together many different company, local company, big groups and SMEs, in order to experiment, to challenge the way of producing microtechnology parts, and maybe parts which can be very different one to each other and which have to be very precise. And this in a very sustainable way. But maybe the best way to explain what we are doing is to see a short video. Karina, if you can start it, please. So the basic idea is to have a sort of smartphone of production, a general structure with some technological niche when you can execute different operations. For example, you can have one part was doing milling, another cleaning, measurement, surface treatment, and so on. And you can mix and have a very configurable microfactory and have a very smart, intelligent way of scheduling all the tasks with some shuttle going from one part to the other, carrying the robots, which carries the tools and so on. The movie is going very quickly, so that you can see it on our website in more detail and more slowly. Actually, this modular microfactory is fully embedded with artificial intelligence. The idea is to autonomize, explore how far we can go to autonomization, namely to have each part can be produced good at the first tentative, and this can be operated with people with no special knowledge. And of course, this can be put in an hospital, in a store, in town and not in the periphery, and so on. I can explain in more detail the ESG impact of this approach maybe later. So this is a real sandbox in an experimentation center in order to challenge production, how we can produce in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Max. Thank you for that. And we will pick up again with you in the course of the discussion. So I'm just very quickly going to launch a short poll, which will be appearing on your screen now. This is an anonymous poll, so we don't see the responses allocated to each individual. So please make your choice now. What will drive sustainability in the next decade? Okay, just going to leave it up for a few more seconds. Okay, thank you. And I'll just quickly share the results with you. Okay, so the results of that poll we will be using, as I said, in a short article that we'll be posting on LinkedIn in the next couple of weeks. So let's move now into our panel discussion. And Mickael, I'm going to come back to you again first, please. And so can I just start by asking, why are we seeing such an incredible shift towards sustainable and ESG focused investment?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So we are seeing new investors who are now taking the control of financial resources by taking the place of the boomers in managing the wealth. We are witnessing a really huge transfer of wealth between old generation and new ones. So the new ones have different values. They are more concerned by the well-being of themselves and the planet. And they want to implement and grow the financial system in a different way than previous generations. We have also structural forces that are coming from the government, especially since the COVID event. ESG has really gained further momentum last year and continues to do this year. And we see it in respect to fresh money inflows in the strategic strategies that invest according to ESG or impact principles. We have also media attention, which is growing thanks to, for example, Christine Lagarde in Europe with her funds, and Joe Biden in the United States with the infrastructure plan. So yeah, that's the main trends we are witnessing now. There is really now a willingness from the governments and the regulators also to give some power to advance the ESG part of the investment industry.
And Mickael, you talked about this great transfer of wealth that is underway right now from the current generation to next gen. Do you think that the financial industry has been prepared for this shift?
Well, it's just warming up. It's just starting. You have the both sides. You have the client side and the portfolio manager side. The new portfolio managers have also different awareness, different level of consciousness, and different dedication. They are coming to the managing power and taking decisions to start to invest and manage huge amounts of capital according to new principles. The transition is very slow, and there is also, we are facing group thinking and institution resistance, like in all the sectors when you have changes, transitions, and innovation. I think we need more education and tools to face this paradigm change, and governments can, and associations, local associations, for example, from our experience, can really provide more awareness and help us to get prepared for the shift, which is already happening. And also the level of information consciousness is very important, and to communicate also about this new paradigm regarding ESG investments.
Okay, so I mean, I think it's probably fair to say that the moment investments that have been labeled as ESG are performing reasonably well. If we see significant underperformance in the future, do you think that investors will lose interest in ESG, or is ESG here to stay?
I think ESG is here to stay because changes are structural, and they are coming really from new rules, new regulations, and they are coming to stay. What is important is to adopt a long-term view. Firstly, because it's a new industry, so there is short-term volatility, and yeah, innovation is volatile. So it's the same for ESG and impact investments. The trend is really strong since 2020. As I said previously, the investments are performing well because there is a lot of fresh new money coming to this industry. It's bringing growth and new jobs with new skills and new products, so it's really strong. For example, if I can make a specific example for the circular economy, it's just starting. It's a theme which is attracting a lot of capital. So yes, it's structural. Governments and big companies are investing huge amounts on it now, and especially since the COVID pandemic, it acted like a catalyst. They are conforming to regulatory laws, so I don't think it's a fashion. It's really a trend. They will not just quit because of medium-term underperformance or stagnation. Or
okay, and are you finding that you know, investors are interested in innovation in terms of ESG?
Well, it depends on the profile of the investors. Younger seem more interested, and they are also, well, it's an opinion, it's a personal opinion, but they seem to be a little more open than the previous generations. And yeah, but they are interested definitely in innovation for sure.
Okay, and are you actively investing in businesses right now?
Yeah, always. Every day we make decisions to invest in businesses. The key factors we look for from an ESG and innovation perspective. As I said, we use the Sustainable Development Goals from the United Nations as a guideline. So we look at their footprint, carbon footprint, their water use, and what they do to improve education in countries that are not so well developed. We look at the quality of the management, the awareness of employees, all the governance parts. We look at the 3 letters of the ESG, the environment, social, and governance. We really use it as filters and to make investments, and we do it every day.
Okay, thank you, Mickael. And so, Giuseppe, I'm going to come to you now, and thinking about innovation. Can you tell us about your involvement with the Solar Impulse Foundation?
Yes, of course. We have been partnering with the Solar Impulse since the beginning, 2007, since the beginning of the project. And the story is quite funny because I was in an opening of a tapas bar in Oslo, and then and there I met Phil Mueller. Phil was the head of media and communication of Solar Impulse, but in this occasion was a DJ of the opening. And so we met, we discussed, what do you do? I produce merchandising, uniforms for important project customers, Formula One, blah, blah, blah. And after 1 month, Andrei Boschberg landed to our airport. My company in Italy is very close to the Bergamo airport, 2,000 meters. He landed with his small airplane and he visited us, and we were producing a very, very nice and technical sweater for a Porsche dealer. And Andrei saw this sweater black. If you know, Andrei Boschberg is always wearing black or dark gray apparel, and he said, wow, this is my mood. And then we started collaborating. So since 2007 up to now, because we are a still partner of the Solar Impulse Foundation, Solar Impulse was really inspiring for us, as you can imagine. Within the Solar Impulse family, we created and conceived our patent, because we were together with the Solvay guys. Solvay is an important multinational, chemical multinational, and they mentioned about their piezo polymer, which is a very performant polymer. And by the way, we applied for a grant and we deposited a patent. And also, as a tribute to our partnership and friendship with Solar Impulse, we applied and also achieved one of the 1,000 sustainable solutions of the foundation. So is a very important, let's say this is one of the reasons why we are now investing in Switzerland. Solar Impulse.
And I suppose that the textile industry is often accused of lacking in sustainability. How is your company being different, and why has that been so important?
Yes, you're right. The textile industry is a very, very, let's say, strange industry. First, depending on from where you look at it, of course, there is the tough industry at the beginning of the supply chain, because the spinners, the yarn makers, the weaver, and the dyer, they are real industry. But then when you go down, you can reach so small companies and no control at all, and spread all over the world, which makes our industry very dangerous because it's not controlled. I mean, is huge. As you know, We are the second polluter after oil and gas. The 20% of the water consumption, between the 70 and the 20% of the water consumption in the industry comes from the textile. So there are a lot of issues to face, and without mentioning all the social issues, because of course, if you have small enterprises all over the world in the middle of nowhere, the social aspects are very sensitive. What we do, we have a characteristic, the 90% of our customers, they are not textile companies, because we produce, example, uniforms for Formula One, for Shell oil, or the energy company. Now we don't say anymore oil and gas, we say energy company, and for ABB, Formula E example. So we provide to those big multinational, or also to the sport federation. We are supplier of FIA, UCI, and different sport federation. Our expertise they don't have it because it's not their core competence, it's not their core business. They are not focused on their environmental impact when they use textile. We start explaining to them that they are so big that their environmental impact when they buy workwear, when they buy merchandising, where they buy uniforms for the events is very important. And so we attract their attention. They say, wow, we are respecting the basic regulations, and that's all. And so the mission of Pielleswiss, considering also, let me tell you that we are certified EMAS and ISO 40001 since 2004. So we invested in the sustainability long time ago, and especially considering the context of this panel, allow me to underline that the EMAS certification is quite important, because, as you probably know, the difference between EMAS and the ISO, we have both, is that EMAS is fully concentrated not only on the environmental aspect, but also on the social aspects. And considering that our company is our business model is outsourcing, EMAS fit perfectly on our organization, because the social aspects that we have to implement are concerning all our stakeholders, suppliers, supply chain, not only the customer. Coming back to the customer, we are experts of textile, and we audit their situation. We take a picture of their situation, and then we intervene on improving the material, improving the process, optimizing the sourcing. And we can do that in all the continents. And then I can
so I mean, you're really
hours in explaining this model. So please stop me as soon as you think that is.
Yeah, no, it's hugely interesting, because we had a seminar on greenwashing before the summer, and you know, there was reference made to greenwashing within the textile and fashion industry, and it sounds as if you've really taken steps to address some of the issues that come from that in terms of your supply chain. Can I just quickly ask you a final question? I mean, obviously you're growing your business, expanding your business. Why Switzerland, and why Neuchâtel, and from a sustainability perspective?
There are many reasons. So first, the most important is the big affinity between our entrepreneurial cultures, north of Italy and Switzerland. And this is for us very important to work in a context which is quite good for us. We share the same values in terms of approach to the business. Secondly, is a perfect context for innovation. we establish our company in a innovation park, microcity, and but microcity belongs to a group of 6 innovation parks. So there is a network, very stimulating, and we are also starting working now. We are in Neuchâtel, but we are also working with Fribourg. Another reason is very important to us is that Switzerland is relatively small to test ideas very quickly and big enough to validate the ideas. So is good, is the good, considering also that we are still acting in Italy, because our activities in Italy we also made R&D in Italy. So it's a good asset for us. And finally, also geographically, Neuchâtel for us is very well located, because we have a lot of customers in Switzerland, and is between Lausanne and Zurich that are the cities where we have the most of our customers.
Okay. Thank you, Giuseppe. So Max, I'm going to come to you now. And can I just start by asking, I mean, here in the UK, we hear a lot about fintech sandboxes and regtech sandboxes, but not so much about sandboxes for example, precision technologies. So why is the Micro Lean Lab sandbox so important?
I think related to ESG concerns, production of goods is a quite important part. And today, to make precision product, like in the medical industry, of course, here in the region, we have a lot of watch industry, but medical connectors and so on. You have a lot of waste, because you need very big machines, and you have to produce, in order to obtain the right quality of the production, you have to produce many parts before the machine is really operational. So you have to produce a lot to throw away the first parts just for producing the good ones, and then you produce in hundreds or tens of hundreds or millions of parts. Nowadays, we are looking more for a mass customization production. So the trend is to produce smaller and smaller batches, even single parts. And of course, in this perspective, all the production has to be, we have to rethink toward the production, because you cannot throw away 1,000 parts to just produce one. So we really have to rethink the way of production, because new technology, artificial intelligence, and other issue can now make it possible today to really have a personalized products at the same cost at the mass production. Actually, this is the challenge. That this is the target of this of the challenge.
Okay, and so I mean, I suppose, you know, we read in the in the media every day about skill shortages, you know, particularly in the UK and certain key areas such as precision engineering and robotics. You know, how might this sandbox concept help companies in other cities and regions?
Yes, this is a good question. Actually, we can make a comparison with a smartphone. Actually, today you have a smartphone which has different apps. What is inside the apps is very complex sometimes, but anybody can operate this, because the intelligence is embedded into the different application. In a similar way, we are looking for a sort of autonomization of the high precision machine, in order that I mean, one scenario is that smart machine can be easily operated by people with no specific skill, because you need to operate different machine. Actually, to put together different machine, you cannot be a specialist of each of them. So this is one scenario, autonomized machine that can run alone, they take decision by themselves. But there is another scenario which is possible, is also remote operation of the machine. Namely, you have a machine with need special skills, no problem. You send the drawing or the file of the product you want to manufacture to a remote location where the biggest expert in the world is there to program your machine for your purpose, and the machine can be operated remotely in order to give access to the best approaches of production independently from the location. So there is also another part which is important. So we are a school, actually, an engineering school. So this sandbox is also used for us to train students. Namely, we are preparing the next generation of students to the upcoming new jobs and new profile. And we hope we can create a sort of emulation, and other schools also are going in the same direction. Try to think what will be the skills needed in 5 years.
And so, I mean, are you looking for partners from outside of Switzerland right now? You know, how can companies around the world get involved?
Oh, everything is possible. We have different scenarios. I mean, of course, we believe that proximity is key, especially if you want to play together in the sandbox. So the best approach will be to either to come close to this region and to work directly with us, or to open a branch of the company in the region, or make a partnership with one of our partner inside the project. So it's really a win-win approach. We really have to work together. It's not we do something and then we deliver, or you can send some products. The idea is really to think together, to brainstorm, and to experiment together, new way of production, new devices, small devices with some communication standard, ecologically efficient, and so on. So these are the major way to collaborate. But of course, it may happen that we look for a specific technology for a niche, which is very specific to a given market or difficult to find. And then, of course, we can also imagine to work with a distant company, and just call me. In this case, I mean, we are working case by case, so it's important. I mean, if you are interested, just call me, and we will find a solution.
Okay.
Well, a third possibility would be also some franchising. I mean, working in partnership with local university in other country, which may develop their own microfactory in collaboration with us, with local partner in this location. But everything is open. I mean, we are there just to make things move, and actually this is the case. But just call me. This is the way, the simplest answer.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Max. So Alexi, I'm going to come to you now, and so I mean, prior to talking to you about this seminar today, I had never heard of surveillance capitalism, and I'm sure that perhaps there are people in the audience who haven't heard of it either. Could you tell us what it means?
Yeah, it's theory right now, which describes kind of the mainstream model of how the internet industry is making business around data. So, and this is the model which is being used by big corporations like Facebook, Amazon, but also like less known companies like Palantir and Clearview. And so these are companies which have a business model of hoarding and taking personal data and providing and augmenting this data and providing services to other party, and so most of them is either advertisement, or they're selling surveillance tools for governments. But this is kind of same type of activity basically, and this is how they can propose like very cheap and very or free solutions to the end user, which is providing their data on itself. So now this it has a lot of, it has a lot of power, because those companies can generate a lot of revenue and a lot of social interactions. They provide great tools to people, but at the same time we see a lot of drawbacks about it. So there is first an analysis, and this is a lady called Mrs. Zuboff, who wrote a book about surveillance capitalism, and describes it very well. I really encourage you to read that book. And it describes how this business model is working. And on the side, there is a other type of business model, which is which is working actually on, and we believe it's much more sustainable, because it tries to reduce and to avoid any data collection, basically creating business model which are focusing on the real service to the client, to the end user, to the consumer, but without actually the need of using the data directly. Or by keeping the data fully into control of the person. So there's a lot of tools to be used for this, or it is basically around cryptography. That's one of the major tools, but inside cryptography, there's many different things that we can use to ensure that. So there's a real, and what we see is that in Switzerland, there's actually an industry which is picking up, and is an interesting mixture, because at the same time you have an industry which is working on privacy aspects, so trying to have business like services which don't need data to be delivered to the end customer, and at the same time we see also that there are some like new business models in terms of like how we organize ourselves through crypto economics, or what we call token economics, where we're going to build actually those services in the blockchain environment. And so it's the mixture of two, which is starting to show, and is being an alternative to those big capitalist companies from the capitalism surveillance model.
And so I noticed in your commentary on Facebook that you say that personal data has become a toxic asset. So at a time when most companies are gathering and trying to monetize their data, how can it be toxic?
Yeah, so there's a belief that it's the only way to make businesses and to earn money is to hoard a lot of data and to know the more in details how a client or a user is behaving, and then applying AI or whatever on top of it to augment this data. But in reality, we see that there is a balance, because the more data we hoard, also the more risk we have it to be leaked. So there's a big security concern here, and we see now that governance companies, they are being hit more and more, and there is a cost of compliance because in some region of the world, like Europe, we are going to up the game in terms of like, oh, you're not supposed to abuse too much this data against people. So there's cost of compliance, but there's a cost of reputation, there's cost of security, and even in China, where there's actually a big cost, because as soon as the company becomes too big in terms of like data, also the Chinese government is getting into action, and we saw this with Alibaba, with Tencent, right, last week. So there is so basically we can see that what is happening is that like banks also, because banks also have been using our data hoarding companies, and they are mandated by law to do that actually also. What we see is that as soon as you have to balance between security, compliance, and you create and your business model where you have to make money, basically it's very hard for smaller business, innovative business to actually make money. So it creates like bigger institutions, or like only bigger are able to afford this kind of compliance and security that allows them to hold all this data. So for innovation, it's important that smaller companies can work out without data and have models which allow them to work without data. So I think in the future, hopefully, and this is also what GDPR is trying to do. GDPR is the European regulation on data protection. They're trying to push up the price of managing data, and which eventually, hopefully, if it has good effects, it would actually push everyone into a model where you wouldn't hoard data to run your own service, or you would do it in a way where you can't even read it. You know, that these are options which are possible. So yeah, it is becoming a toxic in that sense, that it creates you can see research centers that are building up administration, because every time there is data, personal data, and there's a bunch of it, they have to create a whole administration around it, obviously to protect the people who this data belongs. But in reality, it's really a problem in terms of like it raises the bar in terms of like how the price of managing this and the risk of security.
And so, I mean, obviously, the whole process around collecting and managing and protecting data is key to good corporate governance. So, I mean, is there perhaps a little bit of advice that you would give to the people in the audience today in terms of the data that they have within their organizations?
Well, there's different types of data, and we have to recognize this. Of course, there's the data of the organization itself, and that you have to manage. There's usually the data, the organization is pretty, I would say, inclined to protect their own data. But it's also to recognize that when there is the external data which is relating to people or even employees, this data has to be treated in a different way. And the first thing we would say is like to minimize at maximum the data which is collected. And we fail to sometimes understand what we collect. So when we just collect, we say, oh, we just need the name of the person, fine. But in reality, we will see that maybe we have an email with the identity card of this person. We have a lot of extra metadata of the communication, the logs around this person. And we don't always realize that we have all this data about one specific person. So the idea is to use a maximum the tools, and that's why also what we're building. One of the tools that we're building is in this MixNet is actually a communication channel which allows you to remove any metadata between your client or your user and yourself when you're in a discussion with the person. So you only disclose what you want, and I think that's a change of presentations instead of like. Because on the internet or in the digital world, let's say, the amount of data which is shared when two organizations or one person, one organization are talking to each other is huge. You know? There's a lot of sub-data, metadata which is going on. So the idea is to close that completely and only to disclose what we really, really need. And that's a change of focus indeed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Alexi. And so Anna, I'm going to come to you now. I mean, obviously we've heard a lot from the innovators on the panel, and you as a supporter of innovation ecosystem. So, I mean, if innovation is key to the ESG agenda, how can we ensure that it continues to thrive? Anna, you're on mute.
Sorry, it's better if you can hear me. So here in Neuchâtel, the answer to that question is probably in the industrial history of the canton itself. So for more than 3 centuries, tradition and expertise and advanced technology and the innovation of the canton have allowed the Swiss watch industry to maintain its leadership on the world market with many inventions. However, in the 70s, economic crisis and technological upheavals due to the appearance of the quartz watch resulted in a major crisis and the reduction in the size of the industry, and we lost around 20,000 jobs, employees within 1 decade. And this is the reason why we were the first economic cantonal agency of the country to be created. So our mission was, and still is, to capitalize in that strong watchmaking heritage and diversify it as much as possible in other domains of activity, due to the expertise that we have in miniaturization, complexity, reliability, and ultra low consumption microsystems. And so despite or because the crisis that it has endured, the canton managed to overcome these technological and structural and economic challenges placed before it. So Neuchâtel is the leading canton in terms of patents filed per capita in Switzerland, and 44% of the cantonal GDP comes from high tech manufacturing. But I guess, as already Max mentioned it before, the fact that we are very small in comparison to other parts of the world allows us to have within a 30 kilometers radius a deep pool of core skills. And this very dense proximity of economic, academic, and industrial actors allows us as a government to be very responsive and agile. So one example of that is, for example, the unique blockchain ecosystem that we have in the canton. And I mean, we built it thanks also in conjunction with Alexis this year, just within a few years. So from zero, because like we are really close to the companies and we can talk, discuss, and put a strategy into place very quickly.
Yeah.
So
you mentioned being close to the companies there, and I mean, obviously you're working closely with innovative companies that are evaluating Neuchâtel, looking at Switzerland, perhaps looking beyond Switzerland. Do you find that more and more companies are asking about sustainability factors, or has that not quite reached their agenda yet?
Yes, definitely. There's myself here, as I have a biology background, and so conservation was always important, and so each one of us has, of course, his own interests, and so this is one of mine, and so I am in contact with the academic institutions that are fostering the new projects alongside with the companies, and of course for that the canton helps funding projects that the one that Max showed to you and talk about, yeah, we so the canton supports it by helping funding these ESG projects and companies. So to make it short, we don't want the history to repeat, and we don't want to miss this ESG projects and companies, and for that our mindset is proactive, and we promote sustainable projects that have a strong economic impact that will represent the future.
Thank you. So thank you, Anna. So before we move to questions, and thank you for those of you who have posted questions. If you want to post a final question, please go ahead. We should have a, that's the previous poll. Okay. Okay, here we go. So just going to launch a second short poll. Again, this poll is anonymous. So how important are sustainable innovation ecosystems to business growth? So give us your opinion on that. Do you think it's very important, somewhat important, or actually when it comes down to it, it's not very important at all? Just give you a few seconds to respond to that before we end the poll. Okay. Okay, ending the poll now. And I'll just quickly share the results with you. So very encouraging there in terms of the importance of sustainable innovation ecosystems for high growth businesses. Okay, we will quickly take a few questions now. So one question that has just come in from the audience, are ESG criteria an interest or a need for the future of a human being? So that's a very deep question. Anyone in the panel like to put their hand up and have a go at that? Max, thank you.
Just a very short question. Was it very interesting? In our project, we started rethinking the way to produce based on ESG criteria. I mean, energy, low consumption is a complete nonsense to use a 5-ton machine to make a piece of a few grams. And starting from this point of view, we discovered a huge economic impact, because from this very basic input from the beginning, step by step, we went through many different innovation and so on. So it was actually the ESG motivation at the beginning was a very strong driver for innovation in many different fields. So it's a stimulation, actually. And I encourage everybody to solve this kind of problem, because it brings innovation.
Okay, thank you, Max. So I have a question that was emailed in earlier, and Anna, it's one for you. And because we are 3 minutes from the end of the webinar, I'm going to ask you to answer the question, and then if you would make the closing thanks and comments just after that, please. So the question is an interesting one. Has Switzerland or Neuchâtel's relationship with the EU helped or hindered the development of your sustainability credentials as a canton?
So until recently, as you all know, Switzerland is the country that has probably the most bilateral number of agreements with all the other countries in the world and Europe. Specifically for the ESG agreements and regulations. So there's a strong willingness from our side to for an international alignment in all these regulations, and the climate change and transparency is probably the three main keywords for the next couple of weeks and months.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Anna. So I'm going to say thank you to everyone for kindly joining us this afternoon. We will be posting our recording and, of course, our short article with the outputs from the polls. Thank you to our panel. And Anna, if I could ask you just to make some final thank you comments before the end.
So I was delighted to participate to this webinar, and on the behalf of the Canton of Neuchâtel, I would like to thank you, Karina, for being so committed in organizing and coordinating this webinar, our panelists for accepting the invitation and share a little bit more of our innovative ecosystem here in the Canton. And of course our attendees for joining us here today and reflecting on the growing importance of innovation, and in particular disruptive technologies in solving the critical ESG problems. So I quote English writer Theodore Hook by saying that the best way to predict the future is to invent it So for those who are interested in knowing Neuchâtel a little bit more, we would, of course, be glad to organize a visit. We remain, of course, at your entire disposal for any further question or information. And my contact details, I think, will be sent alongside the recording of the webinar. And we are looking forward to be sharing the white paper with you within the next couple of weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. So see you all in Neuchâtel next year then.
That would be awesome.
Thank you, everyone, and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.